Hi there. Welcome to my channel. I am Adam W. Rodriguez, and this is the Art of AWR. Welcome! I'm going to be doing my very first book haul. I don't go shopping for books very often, maybe every 2 to 3 months, so these book haul videos will probably be few and far between. I did happen to go today, and I came home with a small stack of books, and I can't wait to share them with everybody. But before I begin, I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I am a visual artist, a writer, and a performer of many years. If you like the idea of a guy who's been in and out of the entertainment and arts industry for as long as I have, doing reviews, making observations, and recommendations on literature and art, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the like, because this video is so bloody likable. And then hit the bell so that you get notifications every time a new episode drops. Alright, cool. Let's begin. I'm going to intermingle these books that I show you, comics and novels. Like I said, my comic book store is in the same parking lot as my local half-price books. So I usually go and collect the comics that my comic book friends have pulled for me. I have a pull list. I go and I get my comics, and then I walk over to half-price books and shop for novels. And most of the time, I don't find anything that I want. You know, it's kind of a hodgepodge. You never know what you're going to get in a half-price bookstore. But there were a bunch of books that I ended up walking out of there with, largely because of recommendations that I got on booktube. So the first comic that I'm going to show you guys is something I'm really excited about. It's called The Last Ronin. The last issue finally dropped, I want to say a couple of months ago, but these things were kind of like 2 and 3 months apart. This is IDW. It's a different publisher than, you know, your regular Marvel and DC, and to a lesser extent your Image and your Dark Horse. IDW's got a whole bunch of really cool intellectual properties right now. They've got like Tarzan and John Carter of Mars and Red Sonja and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But what's really exciting about this book is Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They are the original creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they had kind of a falling out a good while back, and they haven't been working together for a very long time. But there was a Netflix show that was called I think it was The Toys That Made Us, and they ended up interviewing both Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They reconnected, and now they're writing books together again, and it's super awesome. And this is one of the products that came out with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird working together. I've been reading all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they've only had Kevin Eastman involved, but this is one of the few that has Eastman and Laird working together on this old title that they created so many wonderful years ago. This is a continuation of the Ninja Turtles story. It's very dark and gritty, and I read the very first book and then put them all down until the series was finished, and now that it's finished, I'm going to be tearing into these, and I'm really looking forward to it. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird together again. It's going to be so awesome, and I will probably do a review about this particular book. So, then across the way at Half Price Books, what did I pick up? One of the books I picked up was a recommendation that I got from Booktube, and that is Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. I've been wanting to get into Agatha Christie. I haven't read a single Agatha Christie book. My mother, who was very influential in my reading habits, she and I used to challenge each other with like reading lists and stuff like that. And she, you know, of course, always won. But, you know, I was a kid, but I know she loved seeing me like enjoy reading. And I largely credit my mom to my love of reading. She read a lot of Agatha Christie, and one of the books that she would suggest that I read was this one. Back then, in the 70s and 80s, the book was originally called 10 Little Indians. They've since changed the name for obvious reasons. But this book is also recommended on BookTube a lot from avid Agatha Christie fans. This book is almost always in their top 5 or their top 3 even. And it's almost always one of the books that's suggested as a potential starting point for getting into Agatha Christie novels. So thank you, BookTube, for this recommendation. I am really looking forward to reading this. It's kind of to honor my mom and to just help me learn more about this wonderful author whose movies and TV series I've watched with great enjoyment. So I'm looking forward to it. I know I've seen the old stage play, 10 Little Indians, but I don't remember anything about it because it was so long ago. So I don't know what to expect, and I'm really excited about this. So awesome. Next, you guys are probably going to laugh at me, or some of you might. This is a comic that I saw that it was coming out, and I called the guys over at the store, and I was just like, hey, as soon as these guys drop, I want you to put it in my folder. And they were like, that's fine. Nobody else will want this comic except for you. And that's probably true. This book is called Hawk the Slayer. Oh my God, guys. All right. So the old dudes that might be watching me right now know who Hawk the Slayer is, and some of you younger cats might need to. All right. So back in the 70s and 80s, when I grew up, I'm going to be mentioning the 70s and 80s so often here on my channel. You maybe had this many sword and sorcery movies that you could watch, right? This was before the age of Conan the Barbarian, before Schwarzenegger was doing Conan the Barbarian. You had so very few epic style fantasy films. And one of the few was this one. It was called Hawk the Slayer. It's like silly now. And it was silly then even. But it had everything that you ever wanted in a fantasy flick. It had magic swords and witches and wizards and elves and dwarves and giants and guys with their hands cut off shooting crossbows and rapid fire. It was so delightful. And Jack Palance is the bad guy in it. I mean, come on. Jack Palance owns this movie. It's so awesome. It's something that I think the kids would watch now and find it funny in that, like, it's so bad, it's hilarious. And us old guys will just sit there going, this is all we had, guys. This was as good as it got. The cream of the crop was Hawk the Slayer. But this is one of those really cool instances where an intellectual property or a character or whatever actually lines up with an author that I really like. So Garth Ennis is the one who's writing these. And you might know Garth Ennis from, like, The Boys, which is really popular right now. And he did Preacher, which also was a TV series that I think had its own popularity as well. Garth Ennis is a really cool writer. He writes stuff that I tend to really enjoy. So when a writer that I like and some intellectual property that I like kind of merge, I almost always buy the book. So I'm really excited to tear into these. I'm thinking about letting a few more issues drop before I start reading them. But Garth Ennis is Hawk the Slayer. It's only going to be 5 issues, and I'm really looking forward to it. Awesome. Next, a novel that I picked up at the Half Price Books across the way. So, The Red Badge of Courage. I was rewatching my BookTube Newbie tag video the other day, and I mentioned that I had read Red Badge of Courage. And I was like, yeah, Red Badge. I don't remember anything about that book. And I remember reading it like, gosh, it was like intermediate school. It was like maybe 6th grade, 7th grade. But I remember reading it and it being a book that I remember liking it, but I just don't remember anything about it. So, like, I wanted to reconnect with this book, especially after mentioning it on my BookTube Newbie tag, and I was just like, I really wanted to get back to it and read it again, just so that I can reconnect with this piece of literature. It's super short, so I bet you I could burn through this in a few days, under a week, definitely. I'm a slow reader. I mean, I think it's only like 160 pages, so if I really put myself to it, I could probably finish it in 2, maybe 3 days, in between all the other responsibilities and crap that I got to do. But yeah, Red Badge of Courage. Looking forward to getting back to it and refamiliarizing myself with that book. Back on over to the comic books. What other comic books do I want to show you? Hey, check these out. Moonknight. So this is by a cat named Jeb McKay. He did some Black Cats over at Marvel, and I remember hearing that they were really good. He's done some Doc Strange, but I'd honestly never heard of this guy until I started picking up these Moonknights, and they're really, really good. I read the first 8 or 9 issues, and and this series started right when the Disney Plus Moon Knight show with Oscar Isaac debuted, and I was watching the show as I was reading the comic, and I found myself like enjoying the comic more than I was enjoying the show. And as cool as that show is, the comic was like way better. I remember having like a conversation with a friend of mine. He's like, "Well, that's not fair because Jed McKay is a total badass." And I was like, "Well, I guess I know now. So now when I see a Jed McKay book, I'll probably pick it up, or at least if Jed McKay is writing with characters that I really want to read about, I'll definitely pick up the book." But I think I've discovered a new comic book author that is competent, he's fun, he's imaginative, and he knows how to take a established character and make him interesting in different ways. So that's the mark of a really good comic book author. And Jed McKay is now on my list of guys that I'll seek out and read. So that was that one. Over to novels again. That's novels that I have read that I can't remember all the details to. Especially a book that is so relevant and talked about these days. I've read it. I remember chunks, but I don't remember all of it. And I just want to reestablish my connection with that book. And that is 1984 by George Orwell. I read this in like middle school, like 7th, 8th grade. I remember it was required reading. I remember liking it. And like I said, I still remember parts of it, but it's one of these books that gets brought up a lot nowadays, especially in this age of propaganda and misinformation and stuff like that. And I just want to be able to speak competently toward it. I think I can now, but I want to know better. So I am going to be rereading 1984 by George Orwell very soon, and I found it at Half Price Books for $3. So it's a wonderful system that they got over there. Usually when I head over to the Half Price Books, I take a small stack of stuff that I've already read that I don't plan on rereading anytime soon. I'll turn those bad boys in, and then they will give me some credit, and I'll take that credit, and I'll buy myself a small stack of new books. I really didn't have anything to turn in this go around because I recently moved. I lost a lot of books, in the move. I'd already sent them to Goodwill and all that kind of stuff just for expedience sake. But, I'll be burning through them. And now that I'm doing BookTube, I think I'm reading a little bit more often than I normally would. In fact, I know I am. I'm definitely fretting more about books now that I'm doing a BookTube channel. I'm trying not to read any faster than I normally would because I do still want to enjoy the process. It almost feels like there's a danger of obligating yourself to read and it taking away from the joy of reading. And I'm sure some other booktubers suffer from this kind of a thing. Let's talk about it in the comments, though. I mean, I would like to hear other people's takes on this kind of thing. That would be awesome. So back to comics. What else did I pick up? Oh, yes. Okay. So, World's Finest by Mark Waid. Mark Waid is a really cool writer as well. He's done some really good stuff with Daredevil. He did a run of The Flash that was really excellent. A lot of folks know his work from Kingdom Come, which was really popular, and it's like Justice League stuff. You'll recognize the art. It's like that kind of really kick-ass, super realistic paintings of the Justice League that Mark Waid was writing in those times, and that's some of the more excellent stuff. Now, so he's very familiar with the characters in the book, which is Superman, Batman, and a lot of the JLA characters. You can see like Doom Patrol is even in this one. I read the very first issue a couple of months ago, or several months ago. Like, I had bought it, sat on it for a couple of months, then I read that first issue, and I was like, dude, this is amazing. I need all of them. So I called the guys over at the comic book store, and I was like, hey, can you put that on my pull list? And they're like, that thing's been going on for a few months. So we might not even have any of those back issues. And I'm like, oh, please, see if you can. And it turns out that they could. Those guys are great. They do everything they can to get the books that you want. Tribe Comics and Games. Support your local comic book stores, guys. They are a big part of culture. They usually help guys that are like, I know that Tribe is excellent. They're big supporters of local arts. They're big supporters of local theater. They do game nights where guys that normally don't have D&D groups can come and collectively hang out and play D&D and just, be imaginative and creative together. I love this kind of community, and I think the community that's built around comics and games create some really, really awesome minds and make art accessible to everyone, and I think that's important. A comic book in itself is so many works of art. You got your visuals, you got a guy who's coloring, who's lettering, who's editing, and creating these wonderful pieces of art. That's why I love comic books. And sometimes you'll get writers who are just as good as some of the great fantasy authors, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, they put a lot of great thought into some really, really good books. Mark Waid is one of those folks. He's been around for a while. He's around, like, I want to say late 70s, early 80s, doing stuff. And yeah, when he hits one out of the park, he does. And I think he did with this. Like I said, that first book was such a grabber, an attention grabber, that I was just like, I must have the rest and I must read the rest. This is going to be a fun read, and I plan on doing a review of it. You're going to be seeing a few more comic book reviews this month, just because I've caught myself being super excited about a lot of the comics that are coming out right now. All right, yeah. So final book, which I don't have the physical copy here. It's currently in the mail. I ordered it off of eBay for $5 sweet, and it is also another recommendation that I got from Booktube, and that book is Guards by Sir Terry Pratchett. I have only ever read one Terry Pratchett book, and that was The Color of Magic. I liked it a lot. I didn't feel as enchanted with the Discworld saga as a lot of my friends were after reading that first book. I really liked Color of Magic. I thought it was a good book. I like his satire. It's biting. It's clever. It's heartwarming. There's so many aspects to Color of Magic that I really like. It felt kind of dense, and it felt a little muddy, but I do know that folks have said that there are better books to start with. And the Watch series came on the BBC a couple of years ago, and I was totally in love with the whole concept. I thought it was great. And then I was watching on Booktube, and one of the arcs, one of the kind of standalone sagas, is the City Watch. So I was just like, well, I want to read the City Watch saga. And Guards is the very first book in that saga. So it was really cool that Booktube sort of instructed me on how to read Terry Pratchett and read it in an enjoyable way. And I think I'm going to be thanking Booktube a lot when I finally get my hands on Guards and get to burn through that bad boy. So yeah, I'm super excited for that as well. All these books are going to be on my to-be-read list. I don't know if I'm going to be reading them this month. I have some other books that I definitely want to hit first. I'm going to read some of these comics, and I'm definitely going to read Red Badge of Courage this month. That's definitely going to happen. But I do plan on reading a few other things. I might do a TBR video later. But this has been my very first book haul video. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time with another review coming out here pretty soon. Thanks for watching, y'all.